Hey folks, I just wanted to come on here and speak a little bit about my daughter's testimony. It's our ministry, it's what we do. When we go to churches and we speak her whole testimony, I won't do that on here because I don't want it to take forever and a day for you to watch this. I just kind of wanted to put some hope out there to some parents that might be facing heart transplant or brain injury, and to let everybody know what the Lord can do for you in your life if you just believe upon Him. Real briefly, it took me 17 years to get pregnant, and the month my husband got saved is the month that I got pregnant after 17 years of trying. When I was about 4 months pregnant, they told me that she was going to be born with gastroschisis and that all of her intestines would be on the outside. And we prayed about it that day that they told us. And we went home that night and we prayed and we prayed. And the next day, my husband says, tell him we want to do another ultrasound. When we go back on Thursday, which was 3 days later, he said, I know the Lord's healed this baby. And we called him and we told him, and he said, well, I'll do as many ultrasounds as you like for me to, but I've done this for a long time. I've diagnosed over 200 of these, and I've never been wrong. And 3 days later, he done another ultrasound, and when he did, the baby's stomach was perfect. He could find nothing wrong with it, and he admitted that he was wrong, but he wasn't wrong. God had healed her. It's a wonderful thing when you can see God's hand in something. We knew then that God had His hand on her, and we knew that she was going to be a special child. And she was born perfectly healthy at full term. And when she was 11 months old, she got a virus. She did get the measles, and I kind of believe that's what it was. And it went straight to her heart. And they had told us that they would give her 2 hours to live. And they sent her to Chattanooga Children's Hospital. And she spent 2 months there at that hospital. And they did not do heart transplants there, but they told us that she did need a heart. And there was nothing more that they could do there. They would have to fly her to Atlanta. And so they did. They had to fly her to Atlanta Children's Hospital. My husband and I walked her to the helicopter. And when we did, I made it about halfway to the helicopter where the helicopter pad was. And I collapsed. My husband walked her the rest of the way to the helicopter. And of course we had to drive behind her. We was not allowed on the helicopter. And we went to Atlanta behind her. When she got to the PICU in Atlanta, there was about 26 beds there, and they told us she was the sickest child in the PICU. She was very sick. They told us without a heart she would never survive. She had her story is so long. There's no way that I could tell it all. And you would say with me, well, maybe you would. But my intention for this video is to just give you a glimpse into her life, and to find out if you would like us to come to your church and speak her whole testimony. It's an amazing one. She had been in the hospital there for a couple of weeks, and she began to get worse. And they told us that her only option that they could do was to put her on what was called an ECMO machine. And this machine would pump all of her blood out of her body. There was 2 huge tubes that went in her neck, and the blood would come out of her body and oxygenate and go back into her body. And we agreed to do that that morning at 11 o'clock. We told them, yes, we signed the papers. They were supposed to do it at 7 o'clock that evening in the operating room. And by 3 o'clock, she was going into cardiac arrest. And she died on them several times. They told us that they had packed her head in ice, that she had died so many times they quit counting. And they was trying to preserve her brain cells by packing her head in ice. And they crashed her onto the ECMO machine, and she had been on ECMO for 3 days. And on the third day, they came to us and they said, listen, the only thing that we can do for her now is to go in up through her leg in a heart cath and catheterize her and through her leg and pierce the back of her heart. And this will relieve some of the pressure because they said her heart was as big as her chest. She had what they call dilated cardiomyopathy. Some of you may know what that is. And so we again signed papers for that. And when they came out, they told us that she had made it through that surgery, but now she was bleeding from somewhere. And they couldn't figure out where the blood was coming from. And they had let us all go. There was probably 30 people down there with us. And they had let us all go back to see her. They said the only thing that they had left to do was to have the heart surgeon come up and cut her open. And that he would try to see if he can figure out where the blood was coming from, because they had tried for hours to stop her blood and they just couldn't do it. And so we all went back and we seen her. My husband and I was the last two to go in and see her. And my husband was the very last one, and he got up beside her and he kissed her on the forehead. And he said, baby, I know you're with Jesus now, and I know you're tired. And if you want to go home with Jesus, you can, because we know you're tired. And we knew that she is his. She's not ours. She's on loan to us. And so they carried me out of the cath lab, my brother and my husband. I collapsed. And when we got back to the room, I had remembered a verse in the Bible that my dad had told me about years ago that stops blood. And I asked my mother about it, and she said, I have it marked in my Bible. Let's get my Bible. And so my pastor, Harold Petit, he went to that verse and he read it aloud. And we got on our knees and we began to pray. And when we did, they told us that we was the prayingest people they ever seen. We did not pray quietly. We prayed loudly. We called out to God. We cried to God to save our baby and bring her back home to us. But we did tell him that if it was in his will to take her back home, that we knew that she was his and not ours. And we would accept that as well. But it wasn't going to be easy to accept. And my husband got up off the floor from praying, and he went out to the hallway. And when he did, I heard him yell, oh, thank God. And I got up and I ran out there, and the cardiologist was standing there. And he said, I have no idea what y'all are doing back here, but you need to keep it up because the blood is stopped. She's just quit bleeding. And it was divine intervention. And he even said that he threw his hands up in the air. He said that was divine intervention. We had nothing to do with it. The verse is Ezekiel 16:6. And we've seen it work so many times over again with her. But that on that particular night, they told us they still did not think she would make it through the night. Her heart was just too weak. And so they told us to go back down to the waiting room and wait for them. And when they got her cleaned up, we could see her that they did not think she was going to make it through the night. And so about an hour later, they came and got us, and they told us they needed to speak to us alone. And I asked them, can my pastor come with us? Because we felt like maybe she was already gone. And they called us back to this little hallway, and they said that they had found her a heart. And we was just amazed that this had happened. But the first thing me and my husband did before we even prayed for Megan, we went by ourselves into a hallway and we prayed for our donor family. We knew that somewhere, someone had lost a child. And in their time of losing their child, they thought of us. Megan's got the heart of a little 3-year-old boy. His name was Bailey. And we now know the donor family. We didn't at the time, but we do now. And they're a beautiful family. And so they told us that the surgery would take 8 hours. And they told us that there would be plenty of complications. They told us she would still be on the ECMO machine. And they told us she would be on an oscillator instead of a ventilator. And they told us her chest would be open. Well, her surgery took 4 hours. Her chest was closed. She sailed off of her ECMO machine. She did not have to go on an oscillator. And everything went perfect. So we thought, we're going to get to, go home and we're going to have our new normal. And 2 days later, they started letting her wake up. And when they did, they began to notice that she had sustained a severe brain injury. So now we had a heart, but now we had to deal with the brain. Her brain injury came from the day that she had quit breathing. And somewhere along the line, while she was on ECMO, she had had a stroke. So she got hit twice. She lost oxygen to her brain, and she had a stroke. Megan's body was severely damaged. Her body was shaped like a C. Here is Megan on all the machines that she was on. And her body was shaped like a C. You couldn't bend it back. Her arms and legs was hyperextended terribly bad. Her tongue stayed out of her mouth all the time. Her eyes stayed open all the time. They told us that she would never walk. They told us she would never talk. They told us she was blind. They told us she was deaf. They told us that she would be a vegetable the rest of her life. They called her hopeless. This is how she looked. Hopeless. God had other plans. They told us to take her home and love her. This is Dr. Vatz holding Megan, and you can see she's postured. He is the doctor that continued to do CPR on her the day that she kept dying over and over and over. And he told us that she was not going to die on his watch. And she didn't. God placed him in the right place at the right time. Megan had to get a feeding tube in her stomach that she had for 6 years. She had to wear these braces on her hands. She had to wear AFOs on her legs. They told us that the chances of her ever coming back to us was none. And slowly, she began to come back. Her smile came back. Her laugh came back. And although she was still postured, we prayed over her every day. And every day, she got a little better. My God is good. We serve a mighty God. She can ride horses. She can play baseball. She's no longer postured. She walks with her walker, but she can walk on her own. And one day, she will walk on her own. Today, my little girl will be 14 years old on the 21st. And this is her. This is my miracle. This is what I prayed for 17 years. She is very smart. She's very loving. She has never had one episode of rejection to her heart. Ever. She loves school. She's going to be a cheerleader next year. And she loves the Lord. She loves to sing. She sings song for the Lord. She sings in church. And she knows there are angels all around her. Her story is much bigger than this. There is way more to it than this. But this is a piece of her story. And if you would like us to come to your church, to a resting home, to a boys' home, to a girls' home, to your picnic, your family reunion, any place, and speak her testimony, let me know. Write me on my email, on Facebook. Call me, 706-971-3640. Why do I put my phone number out there? It's everywhere. We've got cards with our phone number everywhere because we want to share what God has done in our life. And we want you to see what God can do in your life. If you don't know the Lord as your personal Savior, trust me, you don't know what you're missing. Because God has performed such a miracle in our life with our Megan. She is such a blessing to our whole family. I want to thank Harold and Diane Petite for being there for us through all of that. I want to thank Vince and Sheila Goebel. They was always there for us as well. Those two was my preachers and their wives. And I couldn't have asked for anybody better to be with us during that time. I'd also like to thank Dion Taylor, Johnny Taylor, and everybody that went to Faith. Everybody that went to Homeland. There's no way I can name all of you. If I tried to, I would leave somebody out. But you all know who you are. Every one of you. And you're an amazing group of people. I want to thank my best friend at the time. And I miss her dearly because I don't see her very much. Frank and Misty Kovac was there for us through all of that. And if it was not for Misty, I probably would have lost my mind. There are so many people that I can thank. But two people that I can never leave out of anything is now Megan's wonderful godparents, Glenn and Melissa Cochran. They are phenomenal nurses. And that's what they was. They was Megan's nurses. And now they are her godparents. There's so many people that I could thank. So many people. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been there for Megan and in Megan's life. Very special people that I could not even begin to name them all. Mona Ray, John and Tanya Suture, Lisa Ringenberg. There's just so many of you. I could sit here all day long and try to name all of you, and surely I'm going to leave somebody out because there's too many. Everybody has been in Megan's life, and one of these days, all of you people that's been in her life is going to get to sit there in that audience and watch her walk across that stage and get her high school diploma. And I don't believe it's going to be a special needs diploma. I believe she will graduate with honors with a regular ed diploma. Thank you for watching this, and if you would like for us to come to your church or any other event, please call us. We love you all, and God bless.